The crash, Marcus. Reed felt the violent shaking of his exploration vessel as it plummeted through the atmosphere of the uncharted planet. Sparks flew from the control panel as he fought to maintain some semblance of control. The survey mission that was supposed to be routine had turned deadly when an electromagnetic storm knocked out his navigation systems. "Come on. Hold together," he muttered through gritted teeth, his knuckles white on the steering column. The ground rushed up to meet him, a landscape of purple crystal formations and silver sand dunes. The impact sent him flying forward against his restraints. And then everything went black. When Marcus awoke, his head was pounding and the taste of copper filled his mouth. Smoke drifted through the cracked viewport of his ship. He unbuckled himself carefully, checking for injuries. A cut on his forehead bled freely, but nothing seemed broken. His training as an engineer kicked in as he assessed the damage to his vessel. The hull was cracked beyond repair. The engine core had shut down completely. His communication array was completely fried. He was stranded on this alien world with no way to call for help. Marcus gathered his emergency supplies and stepped outside into this strange landscape. The air was breathable, though it tasted slightly metallic. Twin suns hung in a lavender sky, casting everything in an otherworldly glow. Crystal formations jutted from the ground like frozen lightning, humming with some kind of energy. In the distance, he could see the wreckage of another ship, its design unlike anything he had ever seen. Curiosity overcame caution as Marcus approached the alien vessel. It was beautiful in its own way, with flowing lines that seemed more grown than built. As he circled the wreckage, he heard something that made his blood run cold, a soft whimpering like someone in pain. Following the sound, he found her huddled in what remained of the ship's cargo hold. She was unlike any being he had ever encountered. Her skin had a translucent quality with veins of soft blue light running beneath the surface. Her hair was white as starlight, and when she looked up at him with large, frightened eyes the color of amethyst, Marcus felt his breath catch. She was injured. A deep gash across her shoulder, seeping a silvery fluid that might have been blood. When she saw him, she pressed herself further back into the wreckage, speaking in a musical language he didn't understand. But he didn't need to understand her words to recognize the fear in her voice. Marcus held up his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." He pointed to himself. "Marcus." Then he pointed to her with a questioning look, after a long moment of studying his face. She whispered something that sounded like Zara. Her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Marcus noticed the way she favored her injured shoulder and the pale tone of her unusual skin. She needed medical attention, and despite the communication barrier, he couldn't just leave her here to die. It went against everything he believed in. His grandmother had always said that character was measured by how you treated those who couldn't help you in return. He pulled out his first aid kit and showed it to her, pointing at her wound. Zara seemed to understand and slowly extended her injured arm. As Marcus cleaned and bandaged the gash, he was amazed by the trust she was showing him. Her skin felt surprisingly warm, and he could feel a subtle vibration, as if energy was flowing just beneath the surface. As he worked, storm clouds began gathering overhead, and in the distance, he could hear something that sounded like hunting calls. Predators, perhaps drawn by the scent of blood or the sound of the crashes. Zara heard them too, and gripped his arm with surprising strength. Her eyes wide with terror, Marcus looked around desperately and spotted what appeared to be some kind of facility built into the base of a large crystal formation. It looked old and abandoned, but it might offer shelter. He helped Zara to her feet, supporting her weight as they made their way across the silver sand. The structure was indeed deserted, filled with strange technology that neither of them recognized, but it was solid and defensible. As the first drops of the alien storm began to fall, Marcus sealed the entrance and activated a small emergency light. They were safe for now, but he knew this was only the beginning of their ordeal. Zara settled onto what might have been a bench, watching him with those incredible eyes. Despite the fear of their situation, Marcus found himself wondering about her story. How had she come to be here? What was she running from? And why did looking at her make him feel like he was seeing something precious and rare in the darkness of the void? Outside, the hunting calls grew closer, and Marcus checked his sidearm. Whatever was out there, he would protect her. It was what humans did. They protected those who needed protecting, even when it made no logical sense. Hunters and hunted Marcus woke to the sound of engines overhead. His military training kicked in immediately as he recognized the low hum of pursuit craft. Beside him, Zara was already awake, her body tense with fear. She gripped his arm and whispered urgently in her language, pointing toward the ceiling, through a crack in their shelter. Marcus could see the sleek outline of a ship designed for hunting. It wasn't the rescue vessel he'd been hoping for. The craft circled overhead like a predator, its sensors no doubt scanning for signs of life. Zara's grip on his arm tightened, and he could feel her trembling. "They found us," Marcus whispered, though he knew she couldn't understand his exact words. Her terrified expression told him she understood the situation perfectly. These were the ones she had been running from. The sound of the ship grew fainter as it moved away. But Marcus knew they would be back. They had probably detected the energy signature from the crystals or picked up traces of their presence. He began gathering their supplies quickly, motioning for Zara to follow him deeper into the ancient structure. As they moved through corridors filled with strange symbols and inactive technology, Marcus's mind raced through their options. They needed to find another way out, somewhere the pursuers wouldn't expect. Zara seemed to know what he was thinking and tugged on his sleeve, leading him toward a passage he hadn't noticed before. The tunnel sloped downward into darkness, but Zara's crystal provided enough light to see. The walls were covered in the same flowing script they had seen above, but these symbols seemed to pulse with a faint energy. Zara spoke softly as they walked, her voice filled with reverence. Marcus got the impression that this place was sacred to her people. They had been walking for perhaps an hour when they heard the sound of the entrance being breached behind them. Harsh voices echoed through the corridors, speaking in several languages. Marcus caught fragments of Standard Galactic, enough to understand that these were slavers, and they were discussing the value of their quarry. "The female will bring a high price," a gravelly voice was saying. "Her species is rare in the outer markets. The human we can dispose of." Marcus felt a cold rage building in his chest. He had encountered slavers before, during his time in the merchant marine, before he'd become an explorer. They were the worst kind of predators, dealing in living beings as if they were cargo. The thought of these monsters getting their hands on Zara made his blood boil. Zara had heard them too, and pulled him into a side chamber. In the dim light of her crystal, he could see tears streaming down her face. She spoke in broken Standard Galactic, her voice barely a whisper. They took my people, sold them. I escaped, but they followed." Her accent was musical, but the pain in her words was heartbreaking. "I cannot go back to that place. Cannot be. Property again." Marcus took her face gently in his hands, looking into her amethyst eyes. "You won't," he promised fiercely. "I swear to you, Zara, they won't take you. Not while I'm breathing." For a moment, they held each other's gaze, and Marcus felt something shift between them. This wasn't just about protecting someone in need anymore. This was about protecting the woman who had somehow become precious to him in the space of 2 days. The voices were getting closer, echoing off the tunnel walls. Marcus pulled out his sidearm and checked the charge. He had perhaps 20 shots, and he could hear at least 3 different voices pursuing them. The odds weren't good, but he'd faced worse. Zara touched his hand holding the weapon and shook her head. Instead, she led him deeper into the chamber, toward what looked like a dead end. But as they approached the wall, she placed her hand on a specific symbol, and it began to glow. A section of the wall slid aside, revealing another passage. "My people built these tunnels long ago," she whispered in her improving Standard Galactic. "Connected to the crystal network. I can guide us, but we must be very quiet," as they slipped through the hidden passage. Marcus marveled at her knowledge of this place. The tunnel system was incredibly complex, branching off in dozens of directions. Without Zara's guidance, he would have been hopelessly lost within minutes. They moved like shadows through the crystalline tunnels. Zara's intimate knowledge of the paths, keeping them ahead of their pursuers. But Marcus could hear the slavers spreading out, using their own technology to track them. It was only a matter of time before they were cornered, in a wider chamber filled with towering crystal formations. Zara suddenly stopped. Her eyes had gone wide, and she was listening to something Marcus couldn't hear. She placed her hand on one of the larger crystals, and it began to resonate with a low, musical tone. "What is it?" Marcus whispered. "The crystals. They sing of danger. More ships coming. Many more." Her voice was filled with despair. "They brought a full hunting party. We cannot escape them all." Marcus looked around the chamber, his engineer's mind racing. The crystal formations were massive, some reaching to the ceiling dozens of meters above. If he could use them somehow, create a distraction, or even bring down part of the ceiling, ... "Zara," he said urgently, "these crystals, can they store energy? Like weapons?" She looked at him with growing understanding. "Yes, but it is dangerous. Too much power could bring down the entire cavern." Marcus smiled grimly. "Sometimes dangerous is exactly what we need." As the sound of their pursuers grew closer, Marcus began working with desperate efficiency, using components from his damaged communicator and Zara's crystals to create something that had never been attempted before. A human engineer and an alien priestess working together against impossible odds. It was the most human thing he could imagine, refusing to surrender, even when logic said they should. The ancient temple chamber where they had taken refuge was vast and filled with towering crystal formations that hummed with dormant energy. Marcus worked feverishly to jury-rig an amplification device using parts from his communicator and several of Zara's crystals. The slavers had found their trail and would be upon them soon. "This is insane," Marcus muttered as he connected the final circuit. But it might just work. Zara knelt beside one of the largest crystals, her hands pressed against its surface. Her eyes were closed in concentration, and the light beneath her translucent skin pulsed in rhythm with the crystal's resonance. "I can feel the network," she whispered. "All the crystals on this world are connected. But Marcus, if we use too much power, ... the whole mountain comes down," he finished grimly.
I know.
"But if we don't try, those monsters will take you. I can't let that happen." The sound of boots echoed from the tunnel entrance, along with harsh voices speaking in traitor's cant. Marcus quickly pulled Zara behind one of the larger formations. Just as the first slaver entered the chamber, Captain Voss was a scarred human with cybernetic implants covering half his face. Behind him came his enforcer, a massive alien called Ket, whose species Marcus didn't recognize. The creature stood nearly 3 meters tall, with skin like armored plates and 4 powerful arms. "I know you're in here, little bird," Voss called out, his voice echoing off the crystal walls. "There's nowhere left to run. Come out now, and I might let your human friend live long enough to watch us sell you to the highest bidder." Marcus felt Zara tense beside him, her breathing quick and shallow. He reached over and took her hand, squeezing gently. Even in this desperate situation, the touch of her skin sent warmth through him. She looked at him with those incredible amethyst eyes, and he saw not just fear, but determination. "Whatever happens," she whispered in her musical voice, "I want you to know, meeting you has been the light in my darkness. You showed me kindness when I expected only cruelty." Before Marcus could respond, she leaned forward and kissed him. It was soft and brief, but it sent electricity through his entire being. Her lips tasted like starlight and promises, and for a moment, he forgot about everything except the feeling of her in his arms. When they broke apart, Marcus saw his own feelings reflected in her eyes. This wasn't just attraction or the desperate comfort of two people facing death together. This was something deeper, something that transcended species and circumstance. "We're going to get out of this," he promised, his forehead touching hers. "And when we do, I want to know everything about you. Your world, your people, your dreams. I want to explore the galaxy with you." Zara's smile was radiant even in their dire circumstances. "I would like that very much." Their moment was shattered by the crash of heavy footsteps. Ket was systematically searching the chamber, his forearms allowing him to move crystal formations that would take a human considerable effort. It was only a matter of time before they were discovered. Marcus activated his makeshift device, and immediately the crystals around them began to glow brighter. The harmonic resonance filled the air, growing stronger with each passing second. Zara gasped as the energy network responded to the amplification. "I can feel it," she breathed. "The whole mountain is awakening." Voss noticed the change immediately. "What the hell are you doing?" he snarled, drawing his weapon. "Ket, find them now!" The massive enforcer roared and began smashing crystal formations in his frustration. Each impact sent waves of discord through the network, causing the harmonics to fluctuate wildly. Marcus realized with growing alarm that the delicate balance he had created was being disrupted. "There," Ket bellowed, pointing directly at their hiding place with one of his massive arms. Marcus stepped out from behind the crystal formation. Placing himself between the slavers and Zara, his sidearm was in his hand. But he knew it would do little against Ket's armored hide. Still, he would make them work for their prize. "Let her go," Marcus said firmly. "I'm the one interfering with your business. She's just a refugee trying to survive." Voss laughed coldly. "How noble. But she's worth more than you could earn in 10 lifetimes, explorer. And you're just a complication that needs to be eliminated." The slaver captain raised his weapon. But before he could fire, Zara stepped out beside Marcus. The crystals around them were now blazing with light, and her skin had taken on an ethereal glow. "You will not harm him," she said, her voice carrying a harmonic resonance that made the crystals sing. "This is a sacred place of my people, and you defile it with your presence." For the first time, Marcus saw uncertainty in Voss's cybernetic eye. Even Ket had stopped his rampage. Sensing the growing power in the air, "The little bird has teeth," Voss sneered. But Marcus could hear the nervousness in his voice. "No matter, Ket. Take them both alive if possible. Dead will do if necessary." As the massive enforcer charged toward them, Marcus made a desperate decision. He overloaded the amplification device, pouring all remaining power from his equipment into the crystal network. The effect was immediate and terrifying. The entire chamber filled with blindingly ooze. Bright light as every crystal formation resonated in perfect harmony. The mountain itself seemed to sing with an otherworldly voice. And in that moment of beautiful, dangerous power, Marcus pulled Zara close and prepared to make their final stand. He was human, and humans never gave up without a fight, especially when protecting those they loved. Light in the void. The crystalline chamber erupted in cascading waves of pure energy as Marcus's makeshift amplifier overloaded the network. The harmonic resonance reached a crescendo that shook the very foundations of the mountain. Voss and his enforcer Ket staggered backward as crystal formations blazed with light brighter than stars. But instead of the catastrophic collapse Marcus had expected, something extraordinary happened. Zara stepped forward, her skin now radiant with the same energy as the crystals, and began to sing. Her voice wove through the chaotic harmonics, bringing order to the chaos. The raw power that had threatened to destroy them all bent to her will. "Impossible," Voss breathed, his cybernetic eye flickering as it tried to compensate for the intense light. "No one can control the crystal network at full resonance." Zara's song rose higher, and the energy coalesced around her like living light. Marcus watched in awe as she seemed to become one with the ancient technology, her consciousness expanding to encompass the entire mountain. Through their connection, he could feel what she was experiencing, the vast network of crystals that stretched across the planet, all singing in unison. Ket tried to charge through the energy field, but the harmonics repelled him like an invisible wall. Each time he approached, the resonance threw him backward with increasing force. His armored hide, designed to withstand plasma weapons, was useless against this fundamental force of the universe. "Zara," Marcus called out, worried about the strain on her. The light flowing through her was so intense, he could barely look at her directly. "Can you maintain this?" She turned to him with eyes that now blazed like amethyst stars. "Not for long," she admitted, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. "But long enough The temple's ancient systems were fully awakening now, responding to her song. Geometric patterns of light raced across the walls and ceiling, and Marcus realized they weren't just decorative. They were part of a massive communication array that had laid dormant for centuries. Through the network, Zara was broadcasting a signal across space, a distress call in the ancient language of her people, but amplified beyond anything the original builders had imagined. It would reach not just nearby ships, but potentially across several star systems. Captain Voss seemed to understand what was happening. "Stop her," he screamed at Ket. "If she gets a message out, half the galaxy will know our position." But even as he spoke, new sounds echoed from the tunnels leading to the chamber. Running footsteps, human voices calling Marcus's name. His rescue beacon, damaged in the crash, had finally been detected through the massive energy signatures Zara was creating. Marcus Reed. The voice belonged to Captain Torres of the exploration vessel Wanderer. "Are you in here?" "Here." Marcus shouted back, never taking his eyes off Zara. "Be careful. Armed slavers in the chamber." The rescue team burst into the crystalline space just as Voss made a desperate play. Drawing a high-powered plasma rifle, he aimed not at Zara, who was protected by the energy field, but at the crystal formation behind her. If he could disrupt the network suddenly enough, the backlash might kill her. Marcus didn't hesitate. He threw himself between the rifle and the crystal, taking the plasma bolt meant for the formation. The energy burned through his shoulders, spinning him around and dropping him to the ground. But his sacrifice worked. The crystal remained intact, and Zara's song continued. "Marcus." Zara's cry broke her concentration, and the energy field flickered. She knelt beside him, her hands glowing as she pressed them to his wound. The same power that had controlled the crystal network now flowed into healing, sealing the plasma burn with threads of living light. The rescue team made quick work of the remaining slavers. Captain Torres and her security detail were experienced in dealing with such threats. And without Zara's song to distract them, Voss and Ket were quickly subdued. As the immediate danger passed, the crystal network began to quiet, returning to its dormant state. But not completely. Marcus could see that some of the formations maintained a subtle glow, as if Zara's presence had awakened something that wouldn't go back to sleep. "You're going to be okay," Zara whispered, her healing energy closing the last of his wound. "My people's ships are coming." They heard the song across the void. Marcus struggled to sit up, marveling at the fact that the plasma burn had left no trace. "Your people? You'll want to go with them. Return home." Zara's expression grew thoughtful. "My homeworld is gone. The slavers destroyed it after taking most of my people. But, ... She looked around the chamber, then back at him. "You mentioned wanting to explore the galaxy together. Did you mean that?" Marcus reached up and touched her face, still glowing faintly with residual energy. "I've never meant anything more in my life." "But what about your people? The ones who are coming?" "They are the last free ships of my kind," she said softly. "Explorers and refugees, seeking new homes among the stars. They would welcome a human who risked his life to save one of us. Especially one who showed such ingenuity in awakening the old network." Captain Torres approached them carefully, her eyes wide with wonder at what she had witnessed. "Mr. Reed, when you're ready, we need to debrief you on what happened here. The energy readings we detected were off the charts." Marcus struggled to his feet with Zara's help. "Captain, I'd like you to meet Zara. She saved all our lives today." He paused, looking into those incredible amethyst eyes. "And if she'll have me, I'd like to request a transfer. There's a whole galaxy out there that needs exploring. I can't think of better company." Zara's smile was radiant as she took his hand. "In my language, there's a saying, 'In the void between stars, even the smallest light can guide a lost soul home.' You were my light, Marcus. Now, let's go find new worlds together," as they walked from the crystal chamber toward their new future. Marcus marveled at how much his life had changed in just a few days. He had crashed on an alien world as a simple explorer and was leaving as something more, a partner, a protector, and perhaps most importantly, a bridge between two species who had found something beautiful in their differences. In the distance, he could see the sleek ships of Zara's people descending through the atmosphere. come to collect their lost daughter and meet the human who had helped her sing across the void. It was, Marcus thought, the beginning of the greatest adventure of his life. And the most human thing of all, choosing love and companionship over fear of the unknown.